So this is the long-awaited WCW Wrestle War from May the 17th, 1992. So the commentators for this show were JR Jim Ross and Jesse the Body Ventura, and your host at ringside, which they kept going back to after every single match, was Eric Bischoff and Tony Schiavone. So let's start at the beginning. The opening match was for the WCW United States Tag Team Championship. And that was the Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, defending. Spoilers. Challenging the WCW United States Tag Team Champions, Greg Valentine and Tailor Made Man. Okay, nothing here to write home about. It was okay, There's lots of interference, as you can imagine, from both teams, but the ending came when Jimmy Garvin actually hit the DDT, pinned Tailor Made Man, and we've got new United States Tag Team Champions. I might give them that way at the start. But yes, we have new Tag Team Champions. And just to paraphrase, it's the Freebirds' second time as US Tag Champs. So that was the opening contest. There are some matches coming up now that weren't actually advertised, and I didn't even know they were going to happen. So, yeah. The next match was Young Pistol Tracy, so Tracy Smothers, taking on Johnny B. Bad. And this was as bad as it sounds. Yeah, it wasn't great. And as you can imagine, Johnny B. Bad got the victory. Now, at this point in time, Johnny B. Bad was flirting with the light heavyweight division, so we'll see if that goes anywhere. The next match was Marcus Alexander Bagwell, before he came buff, taking on Scotty Flamingo, before he became Polo and Raven. Scotty Flamingo, side point, the last time we saw Scotty Flamingo on Saturday night, the night before, he was accompanied to ringside by JT Southern, who was very conspicuous by his absence at Wrestle War. Interesting. Not a bad match, not a great match, but not a bad match. Probably the match of the card up to this point. But Scotty Flamingo got the victory when he held Marcus Alexander's trunks, as you do. But he was a heel. What do you expect? So yeah, that was the opening three matches. As I say, they kept going back to Bischoff and Schiavone like after every match. There wasn't really any sort of like backstage stuff because, well, there wasn't. To be perfectly honest, there wasn't. The next match was right. So I'm going to give you a background on this. Originally, this was supposed to be a tag match between Abdullah the Butcher and Cactus Jack versus Ron Simmons and JYD. Right? This was supposed to be a tag match. This tag match never happened because Abdullah the Butcher, I think, had gone from WCW at that point. So, they were going to still have a tag match. They were going to have Mr. Hughes instead of Abdullah and still have the same match. However, before the start of this match, JYD came out and Cactus Jack actually basically took him out and laid him out on the concrete. So they said that this match wasn't going to be a tag match, and at one point everyone thought it might be a handicap match, but no, that didn't happen either. And then bizarrely, it became a singles match where Mr. Hughes took on the All-American Ron Simmons. Weird. Cactus Jack suddenly became a temporary manager on the side. It was very odd. But yeah, so that was the match, and Ron Simmons won. Yeah, it wasn't, again, it was alright, nothing special. So that was number 4. Number 5 of the evening of, as it turned out to be, 9 matches. Number 5 was Todd Champion, who actually did have a championship run as United States Tag Champions a while back. And he took on the Super Invader, who was being billed from Thailand. Possibly was, I don't know. He was managed by Harley Race and he accompanied him to ringside. And as you can imagine, the match was bloody awful, to be perfectly honest. Super Invader got the win, and they were talking about, oh, what happens if Super Invader and Vader get together as a tag team? God, no. Please, God, no. It could happen. I hope not. The next match was Richard Morton taking on Big Josh, who is about as big as I am. So he wasn't big. He wasn't like, he's not the Great Khali. This is very strange, this match. It was all right. It wasn't very special. Again, I hate repeating myself here, but most of these matches up until this point weren't very good. They were okay. Some were terrible. Again, this was okay. But the ending was very strange. It looked like they messed it up. Because it looked like Big Josh seemed to... Well, he pinned Morton. He went 1, 2, and then the referee was like moving his arms. It didn't look good. The ending did not look good. But Big Josh, for all intents and purposes, got the victory. But to me, it did look like it was a mess. It was a mess at the end. I'm not going to use the word you think I'm going to use because I hate using that word. But yeah, it was a mess. And then we came to match number 7. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was for the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship, where Flying Brian was to defend the title against the Z-Man. This was a really good match. This was, at this point, the best match on the card. It was really good. They've been teasing sort of like things leading up to it that maybe they weren't getting on as well as they could. And yeah, there were a lot of funny things in this match, but it was really good. For a light heavyweight match in the early 90s, this was actually pretty good. So the victor was, and he won with a crucifix with like a bridge. It was a beautiful finishing move, and your winner and still WCW Light Heavyweight Champion, Flying Brian. Now, the ending was good, but when they cut away, Flying Brian was getting out the ring, and he sort of looked back at Z-Man, and a little smirk on his face. Remember, these are two good guys, so, interesting. A little bit of a smirk he had, a little bit. The next match was a tag team match. For all intents and purposes, this was a number 1 contenders match for the IWGP Tag Team Championships. But they didn't announce it as that. They just said it was a tag match. But the commentators kept saying it, so one of those. Is it? Isn't it? I don't know. But it was Takayuki Iizuka versus Tatsumi Fujiyama, one of the best of all time. And they took on the WCW World Tag Team Champions. Notice they didn't defend the titles. Rick and Scott, the Steiner Brothers. And this, again, was brilliant. Really good match again. Very hard hitting. I would have to say that both Rick and Scott looked great. I thought Fujinami looked really good. Iizuka looked fantastic. Unfortunately, he did get a random Rick Steiner kick to the head early on, and he didn't seem right. I mean, if that match happened now, it probably wouldn't have happened. He didn't look right, but they did win in the end. The Steiners, they got the victory, and they are now apparently the number 1 contenders to the IWGP Tag Team titles. So, we come to your main event of the evening. And as Gary Michael Capetta would say, it's time for War Games. So try to explain War Games. It's a bit convoluted, but bear with me. So, it was Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance. There were 2 wrestlers that would start. They would wrestle for 5 minutes, and then on the judge of a coin toss, whoever won that coin toss would always have the advantage going forward up until all 10 wrestlers, 5 on each side, would have entered. Okay, so quite simple, right? I hope so. I hope I'm explaining it as simple as that, because when they put it on the screen, it made no sense. But when you watch it, it actually does make sense. So, I'll do this as they came in. So, the first 5 minutes was the former WCW World Television Champion, Steve Austin, and he was against the current WCW World Television Champion without his belt, because if you remember, Austin stole it. Barry Windham. This was, again, that these two mesh brilliantly, fantastically. Austin basically was juicing all the whole match, blood everywhere, fantastic. So they did the toss of the coin, and who got the advantage? Oh, Kelsa Breeze. It was a Dangerous Alliance, which is the right thing to do, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. And coming in was the WCW United States Heavyweight Champion, Rick Rude. And him and Austin were, oh yeah, let's beat Windham up. To level match, then in came Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and obviously he went straight for Rude, because as you remember, there's ongoing storyline with Steamboat and Rude. Rude accusing Steamboat of obsessing and stalking Medusa. So yeah, that's how it was going. Then the next person to come in for the Dangerous Alliance was the enforcer, Arn Anderson, a man who needs no introduction, and I'm not going to give him one. Arn Anderson. Coming in for Squin Squadron was Dustin Rhodes, the natural Dustin Rhodes. And he came in, and so there was some quite heavy shots in this. The next person to enter was the Cruncher, Larry Zbyszko. More on him later. Then, bizarrely, came in WCW World Heavyweight Champion Sting to level the sides at 4-4. I thought he'd come in at 5, but he came in at 4. Then at number 5, it was Beautiful Bobby to put the Dangerous Alliance finally ahead, and they were battering each other. And I'll come to what I think of the match in a minute. So then the final entrant was Nikita Koloff. He came in. He stood face to face with Sting. Were they going to hit each other? Were they going to turn on each other? No, they weren't. No, they high five and stuff. So they're friends. So they tagged up together. So the actual match was mental, was brutal, was full of ridiculousness. Was it a good match? Because people say to me that this match is the greatest of all time in WCW. I don't think it's the greatest of all time, because I liked it, but I thought parts of it were a mess. You couldn't really see what was going on. I don't know. It just there's too many things going on at the same time for me. So it was good. Don't get me wrong. It was good, but I've seen other matches in WCW a few years later, which I consider better. So for me, it was good, but it's not the greatest of all time. That's my take on it. So the ending came. So for a lot of the match, you could see the Dangerous Alliance were trying to pull apart the top rope, the turnbuckle, the blue top turnbuckle, and they kept going back to it, and he was trying to. It looked like Bobby Eaton, something going on the ring crew, because he was trying to do it, And sorry, beautiful Bobby, I do apologize. For God's sake, we know it was Bobby Eaton. For God's sake, whatever, right? And then they held Sting. Bobby was holding Sting like this behind him, like the heels do, 2 against 1. And then Zbyszko was going to hit him. He had the pipe, behind the turnbuckle. It's like a lead steel thing. And he ran, and he was going to hit him, and he hit beautiful Bobby on the arm, which of course Sting took advantage of, and then tap. Well, he didn't do tapping in those days, but that's how it ended. Your winner and the winners of War Games, Sting Squadron. They got the victory. Now, they tease something at the end of this, because at the end of it, basically, all of the members of the Dangerous Alliance basically were in Zbyszko's face, and they were like shouting, "Why have you done this? You've cost us this. Why? Why?" And then they teased it, and was there going to be a fight? Was it going to be a fight? No. Nothing happened. So, yeah. But yeah, so that was WCW Wrestle War. If it wasn't for the last 3 matches, I wouldn't give this a high rating, because the first half of it was okay. It wasn't anything special. It's not a pay-per-view that you're going to go, oh, we should watch 1992 Wrestle War. If you're going to watch it for the last 3 matches, because they were excellent. They were really good. But yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10. It probably wouldn't have got a 7 if it was for those last 3 matches. So, heads up. That's what I think. I'm always right, because I'm Will Nitro. Yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been your WCW Wrestle War 1992. And just to pass, this will be the only time I'll be reviewing WCW Wrestle War, because unfortunately, this was the 4th and last Wrestle War ever. Never happened again. Wonder what happened to War Games. Anyway, that was your review. I'm Will Nitro. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you at ringside.